They crossed oceans with almost nothing, except seeds in hems, spices in socks, and recipes folded smaller than hope. These 25 foods weren't just meals, they were the first stitches in the American fabric. Tonight we unwrap the bundles our grandparents smuggled across the sea. This is the real taste of the American dream. Welcome to the America we cherish. Tamales from Mexico. Imagine a moonless night in 1912, somewhere south of El Paso. A young mother named Maria, her skirt heavy with a dozen corn husk bundles tied tight against her thighs, wades chest-deep across the Rio Grande while border guards' lanterns sweep the water like slow fireflies. Inside those husks is not just masa and pork slow-cooked in red chili until it falls apart like a whispered secret. Inside is Christmas, is her mother's hands, is the village fiesta she will never see again. When the family finally reaches a tiny adobe shack in San Antonio, she unties the bundles with trembling fingers, steam rising like incense, the scent of toasted corn and cumin filling the single room so thick that her children stop crying for the first time in weeks. Years later, in the 1930s, when Depression agents come to deport Mexicans, many of them American-born, neighbors swear they can smell tamales cooking on the wind and know which families are hiding in the back room. Maria's granddaughter, now 70, still wraps them the same way every December 24th, tying the final knot with a strip of husk the way her abuela taught her, and every Christmas Eve the house smells like that night on the riverbank, like danger, like survival, like love that refused to stay behind. One bite of that soft masa, that molten filling, and suddenly you're not just eating dinner, you're tasting courage wrapped in corn leaves, the very first thread Mexican hands wove into the American flag. Borscht from Ukraine. Picture a freezing tenement rooftop on New York's Lower East Side in 1908, snow swirling around a makeshift garden of wooden crates where stubborn beets push through the frost like crimson hearts refusing to surrender. Downstairs, in a two-room flat lit by a single kerosene lamp, a Ukrainian grandmother named Alina ladles ruby-red borscht into chipped bowls, the steam carrying the scent of earth, dill, and slow-cooked beef through air thick with coal smoke in Yiddish and Italian and a dozen other languages. Those beets had traveled inside her husband's coat lining from a village near Kiev, smuggled past Ellis Island inspectors who thought they were just dirty roots, not the last piece of black soil their family would ever own. Every spoonful was a silent rebellion. The Tsar had taken their land, the pogroms had taken their neighbors, but no one could take the taste of home. When the Great Depression hit and the relief office offered only canned beans, Alina traded bowls of her borscht for coal, for shoes, for a doctor's visit, each transaction a quiet act of defiance that kept body and soul together. Her great-grandson, now a Chicago firefighter, still cooks it the same way every Christmas Eve, adding the final dollop of sour cream in the shape of a cross the way she taught him, and when that white swirl melts into the red, the kitchen suddenly smells like 1908 again, like survival wrapped in dill, like a promise that no ocean is wide enough to wash away who you are. Chicken tikka masala from India. In a tiny walk-up apartment above a laundromat in Chicago's Devon Avenue in 1968, a young Punjabi student named Harpreet Singh turns on a single hot plate while the snow piles against the window like a silent accusation. He has no tandoor, no clay oven, only a battered skillet and a can of Campbell's tomato soup he bought for 15 cents because it looked closest to the tomatoes his mother used to crush by hand back in Amritsar. Into that soup he stirs yogurt-marinated chicken charred under the broiler, a fistful of garam masala smuggled in a jar labeled talcum powder, and enough butter to make the sauce glow like sunset over the Sutlej River. The smell drifts down the hallway and brings every homesick Indian student in the building to his door, engineers, doctors-to-be, lonely boys who haven't tasted home in 2 years. They eat cross-legged on the floor, tears mixing with the sauce, because this impossible orange gravy tastes like Diwali, like weddings, like a mother's hand on a fevered forehead. Harpreet never knows that decades later food critics will argue whether chicken tikka masala was born in Glasgow or Delhi. All he knows is that on that freezing night he invented a new kind of homesickness, one that could be cured with a spoon and shared with strangers who would soon become family. Today, when a Midwestern teenager dips naan into that same creamy, tangy, slightly smoky sauce at a strip mall restaurant, he has no idea he's tasting a secret born in desperation and love above a laundromat dryer, a dish that crossed an ocean twice, once in a suitcase, once in a heart, and ended up painting the American palette the color of Punjab sunsets. Pierogi from Poland ***. Deep in the smoky haze of a Pittsburgh boarding house in 1898, where the steel mills never sleep and the night shift stumbles home with soot in their lungs, a Polish woman named Katarzyna spreads flour across a scarred wooden table lit only by the red glow of a potbelly stove. Her hands, still cracked from crossing the Atlantic steerage where she hid a small sack of potato flour in her baby's swaddling clothes, move like memory itself, rolling dough thin as communion wafers, spooning in mashed potatoes mixed with farmer's cheese and fried onions that smell like Sunday Mass back in Galicia. The pierogi boil in a dented pot, rising like pale moons, then get kissed by butter in a cast-iron skillet until their edges turn golden and crisp, singing a soft sizzle that cuts through the clang of the mills outside. Men who haven't heard Polish spoken in months crowd around the table, eyes wet, because one bite of that tender dough giving way to warm, creamy filling tastes like their mother's kitchen in Krakow, like Christmas Eve when the first star appeared, like the village they were told to forget the moment they stepped off the boat at Ellis Island. Katarzyna never charges money, she trades pierogi for English lessons, for coal, for someone to read the foreman's letters aloud. Her great-granddaughter, now a nurse in Cleveland, still makes them every Vigilia, pressing the edges with the same fork her prababcia carried across the ocean, and when that familiar half-moon shape appears on the plate, the whole family falls quiet for a moment, because they're not just eating dumplings, they're eating the sound of church bells over snow-covered fields, the weight of a mother's hand on a fevered forehead, the unbreakable promise that no matter how loud the steel furnaces roar, a Polish heart still beats inside every perfect, sealed pocket of dough. Pho from Vietnam ***. Houston, late summer 1975, the air is so thick with humidity it feels like breathing soup already. In a cramped one-bedroom apartment off Bel Air Boulevard, a woman named Lon, who just weeks ago was clinging to an overcrowded fishing boat in the South China Sea, unpacks the only treasure she saved, a small cloth pouch of star anise, cinnamon sticks, and charred ginger wrapped in her dead mother's silk scarf. Her husband is still missing, her children are barefoot and wide-eyed, but tonight she fills a dented aluminum pot with water from the tap that tastes of chlorine and freedom. She roasts the spices over an open gas flame until the way her mother did in Saigon, the sweet smoke curling up past cracked plaster walls and out the window where American flags hang from every porch. Beef bones scavenged from the Vietnamese market simmer for 12 silent hours while neighbors peek through curtains, wondering what kind of witchcraft smells that good. When the broth finally turns the color of dark tea and the apartment glows with warmth, Lon ladles it over rice noodles and paper-thin raw beef that cooks in the bowl like a magic trick. The first spoonful hits the tongue, star anise blooming, ginger biting, basil and lime singing, and suddenly the children stop asking when they're going home, because for one perfect moment they are home. Word spreads fast. By Christmas, every refugee family on the block is knocking on land's door with empty bowls, trading stories of lost villages for another ladle of broth. 40 years later her grandson, now a cardiologist in Dallas, still keeps that same scorched silk scarf in his kitchen drawer. Every Sunday morning he fires up the pot, and when the first bubble breaks the surface he whispers, "See, on ba," into the steam, because that fragrant cloud rising above Texas rooftops is the same cloud that carried an entire nation across the Pacific, proof that no war, no ocean, or grief is strong enough to drown the taste of. Pastelitos from Cuba. Miami, October 1961. In a cramped efficiency on 12th Avenue, Caridad Menendez, 30, already a widow of the revolution, opens the only thing that survived 3 customs checks, a small tin holding 6 pastelitos de guayaba y queso, baked at dawn in Havana by her sister the night the Bay of Pigs turned their street into a battlefield. Still faintly warm, layers delicate as lace, guava glowing blood red, cream cheese soft as childhood memories of cows on the family farm in Pinar del Rio before the state took them. She warms them on a borrowed hot plate, the scent, butter, tropical fruit, defiance, floods the hallway. Soon 20 exiles crowd in, lawyers now washing dishes, ballerinas teaching rumba in church basements, eating standing, powdered sugar dusting chins like First Communion veils, tears falling because each flaky bite is a postcard from a Havana that might be gone forever. Caridad never sells them. She trades for silence about forged papers hidden behind the Virgin statue, for news of relatives left behind, for someone to watch her daughter while she cleans offices at night. By 1965 her kitchen is the unofficial welcome center for every new balsero. The smell of baking pastelitos drifting over Little Havana becomes the first proof that Miami is now Cuba reborn in exile. 60 years later her granddaughter Daniela, a federal judge, still bakes them before big trials, rolling dough thin enough to read love through, whispering the same words, para ti, mi Cuba. Fidel no gano to do. Because every sugar-dusted square proves a tyrant can take your home, but never the taste of courage baked between layers of puff pastry. Banh Mi from Vietnam. Westminster, California, late summer 1981. Minh Nguyen, once a Saigon schoolteacher, drags a battered grill onto the driveway of a stucco duplex still smelling of fresh paint and old grief. He has no money, no English, only the memory of his father's bicycle cart before the fall. With 20 borrowed dollars he buys warm baguettes, pâté, pickled carrots and daikon fermented under the sink, and pork belly that costs half his weekly pay. The meat roasts over scavenged charcoal, fat hisses like Tet firecrackers, filling the air with star anise and fish sauce. The bread tears like dawn. He layers pork, vegetables that bite with sweet sour lightning, cilantro tasting of monsoon, cucumber, thick mayo, Maggi dashes. At noon he stands with a Banh Mi, $1 sign. First a Marine vet, then a Mexican mechanic, then a line around the block. By sunset the grill is empty, his pocket holds $43, and Little Saigon has its first legend. 40 years later his daughter, now a food truck queen in Portland, still uses that dented grill. When the first sandwich slides into a crackling baguette, she hears the old bicycle bell ringing through Saigon traffic, reminding every customer that this sandwich didn't just feed refugees, it built an entire American city, one perfect, life-changing bite at a time. Sauerkraut Kielbasa from Germany. Milwaukee, 1883. The wind off Lake Michigan cuts like a blade, but inside a brick tavern on the south side the air is thick with the sour-sweet perfume of fermenting cabbage and smoky garlic sausage. Liesel tends 50-gallon crocks she smuggled from Bavaria in a false-bottom trunk, lined with rye crusts the way her mother taught in the Black Forest. For 6 weeks the cabbage sings its sour song under the floorboards while her husband pours lager upstairs. When the first crock opens, the scent explodes, tangy, earthy, alive. She slices thick coils of kielbasa smoked over beechwood, piles it atop steaming sauerkraut glistening with fat and caraway. German, Polish, Irish workers push through the doors, drawn by the smell like sailors to sirens. They eat in silence at first, then stories spill, Oktoberfest tents, grandmothers' kitchens, villages they swore they'd forget until the first forkful hits the tongue and the Atlantic shrinks. Liesel never charges, she trades for English lessons, coal, news from home. By World War I, when the city tries to rename it Liberty Cabbage, her tavern is famous from Chicago to St. Louis, and no renaming can hide the truth, that sour, smoky flavor is baked into Wisconsin's soul. A century later, on opening day of deer season, a fourth-generation hunter still heats her sauerkraut with venison kielbasa over a campfire, and when the steam rises he hears an old woman's voice on the wind, Guten Appetit, mein kind, because some things are too stubborn to ever leave home, even when home has become America. Empanadas from Argentina. Queens, New York, 1977. In a walk-up apartment above a travel agency that still sells tickets back home nobody will ever use, Elena unpacks a Tupperware that survived 3 flights and a suspicious customs agent. Inside, 6 empanadas baked at dawn in Buenos Aires by her mother hours before the military raided their street. Golden half-moons sealed with the perfect repulgue braid, filled with hand-chopped beef, green olives that pop like Mediterranean sun, and just enough cumin to make a grown man cry. Elena warms them in a borrowed toaster oven while tango crackles from a tiny radio. The smell leaks under the door, Soon the hallway fills with Argentines fresh off the red eye from Miami, doctors, journalists, tango dancers who left everything. They eat standing, grease-staining fingers, telling half-truths about relatives, on vacation, while the empanadas disappear. Elena never sells them, she trades for silence, safe house addresses, someone to watch the girls while she works nights. By 1980 her kitchen is the unofficial embassy of the disappeared. 45 years later, on the day democracy returns to Argentina, her daughter, now a federal judge in Brooklyn, pulls a tray from the oven, still braided the same way, still hiding one green olive like a secret message. When the first bite breaks open and steam carries every missing name into the light, the room falls quiet, tasting the impossible love story of a mother who fed an entire exile with nothing but dough and defiance. Jiaozi, Chinese dumplings, China. Chicago, 1924. In a steamy basement kitchen beneath a hand laundry on Wentworth Avenue, a woman named Mei Ling folds 1,000 paper-thin dumpling skins before sunrise, her fingers moving faster than the sewing machines upstairs. The wheat flour dough was smuggled in 5-pound rice sacks labeled talcum powder from Guangdong. The filling, pork shoulder she minced herself with a cleaver sharpened on the curb, chives grown in coffee cans on the fire escape, ginger that still carries the bite of the Pearl River, was hidden inside hollowed-out hymnals so the immigration officers at Angel Island thought her husband was just another pious Christian. When the first batch hits the boiling water, the dumplings rise like tiny white lanterns, then get tossed in a wok with garlic oil that crackles like New Year's firecrackers. The smell rockets up the air shaft and suddenly the narrow alley fills with every Chinese man in the neighborhood, bachelors banned from bringing wives, laundry workers who haven't tasted home in 15 years, a teenage boy who crossed the Pacific hidden in a coal bunker. They eat standing shoulder to shoulder, burning their tongues, passing a single bottle of soy sauce, because one bite of that juicy, ginger-bright explosion wrapped in delicate dough is a telegram from mothers left behind. I am still alive, I still remember how to feed you. Mei Ling never charges money, she trades Jiaozi for English vocabulary words, for someone to carry the heavy irons upstairs, for silence about the cousin hiding in the back room. By 1930 every Chinatown banquet in America serves her recipe, but only Mei Ling still leak a single drop of broth when you bite, the way tears leak when you finally hear your real name spoken after years of being called only boy. 90 years later her great-granddaughter Grace, now a federal judge, still folds them every Lunar New Year in the same basement, now a protected historic site. When? Jerk chicken from Jamaica. Bronx, 1973. On a cracked stoop off the Grand Concourse, Winston lights a halved steel drum with pimento wood he carried up 6 flights in a rice sack. He was a Kingston mechanic until politics and poverty pushed him north with only a change of clothes and his grandmother's jerk seasoning hidden in a hollowed-out Bible, Scotch bonnets ground to dust, allspice like Christmas in the Blue Mountains, time tough as island survival. He rubs the mixture into chicken until the meat turns sunset red and the whole block leans out windows, pulled by smoke that travels farther than any reggae beat. When the first pieces come off the grill, skin blistered black, dripping with pepper heat and island sweetness, he hands them out on wax paper to whoever shows up, black kids from the projects, Puerto Rican bodega owners, Irish cops, an old Jewish lady who says it reminds her of her husband's brisket, only better. Winston never charges, he trades chicken for English lessons, for someone to watch his car, for news from cousins still stuck back home. By 1975 his drum is parked every weekend on Fordham Road, the line stretching past pawn shops, the smell of pimento smoke becoming the unofficial scent of the New Bronx. 50 years later his daughter Simone, now a Grammy-nominated DJ, still lights the same barrel behind her Brooklyn club before big shows. When the first piece hits the foil, she hears Winston's gravelly laugh in the crackle of the skin, reminding every dancer that Jamaica never left, it just flew 1,800 miles north on wings of allspice and Scotch bonnet fire. Falafel from Lebanon, Dearborn, Michigan, 1918. The Ford Rouge plant whistle blows at noon, and hundreds of men stream out smelling of hot metal and distant homes. On Michigan Avenue, young Lebanese Khalil parks his wooden pushcart draped in an American flag to hide cedar shavings burning below, the only scent of home smuggled past Ellis Island in 1910, tucked with dried chickpeas, parsley seeds, and his mother's note, "Feed people, Habibi, and they will feed your soul." He soaks chickpeas overnight, grinds them with garlic, onion, and fire-escape parsley, shaping balls that hiss into golden crispness in bubbling oil, then tucks them into warm pita with tomatoes, pickles, and creamy tahini that makes grown men close their eyes. First only Arab workers line up, Syrians, Palestinians, Iraqis, trading nickels and village stories, but soon Irish foremen, Polish machinists, even German engineers discover one crunchy, herbaceous, lemon-bright bite erases factory dust and warms the Michigan wind like the Mediterranean. Khalil keeps the price at a dime, trading falafel for English lessons, cart repairs, news of Beirut ships. By 1930 the cart becomes a stand, then a diner, anchoring an Arab-American neighborhood for miles. 100 years later his great-granddaughter Noor, now a city councilwoman, keeps the original pushcart in her garage. Every Eid she fires it up on the same corner, cedar hidden under the flag. When the first ball hits the oil and the smell rises like a muezzin's call over Dearborn rooftops, she hears Khalil's voice in the sizzle, "Feed people, Habibi," because that humble chickpea ball didn't just feed workers, it planted seeds for an entire American city where Cedar's children grew strong under Michigan skies. Kimchi from Korea. Los Angeles, 1953. A freezing Quonset hut outside San Diego smells of diesel and despair until Sun-hee, a young war bride, opens a 5-gallon ongi hidden in a duffel marked, U.S. Army blankets. Inside, her mother's last gift before the bombs fell on Seoul, Napa cabbage slathered in red pepper paste fierce enough to wake the dead, garlic that bites, ginger that stings, fish sauce singing of the Yellow Sea. She buries the jar in California dirt behind Hut 17 because kimchi must breathe earth to live. Every night she checks the bubbling with a flashlight. When her Iowa-born husband, who's never tasted anything hotter than black pepper, comes home from guard duty, she feeds him the first forkful. His eyes water, face turns kachugara red, but he takes another bite, the heat feels like courage, the sour like memory. Word spreads. Soon every Korean bride on base trades jars for diapers and English lessons. By 1955 the smell drifts across the camp, even the commanding officer wants a bowl. Son he never measures, she tastes the way her mother taught, whispering, "A little more time." 70 years later her granddaughter Ji-yun, now a Silicon Valley CEO, still buries an ongi every fall. When frost hits and she digs it up, the scent explodes like fireworks. She sets it on Thanksgiving between turkey and cranberry, and when her father-in-law's eyes widen just like in 1953, Ji-yun hears Sun-hee's laugh in the crunch. Kimchi didn't just survive the journey, it conquered America, one fiery, unapologetic bite at a time. Arroz con gandules from Puerto Rico. Spanish Harlem, 1952. In a shoebox-sized fifth-floor flat on East 116th Street, Carmen opens the window so the whole hallway smells Christmas in October. Fresh from scrubbing midtown floors, hands red from bleach, she lights the stove like a church candle. From a dented tin comes lard smuggled from San Juan, then Dawn-made sofrito, peppers, onions, garlic, aji dulce, that melts into perfume. Rice turns translucent like beach glass, then pigeon peas bought with ration stamps and a precious can of tomato sauce. Finally the Saison packet mailed from the island, seasoning, not drugs, and a splash of her husband's beer, just like Abuela in Bayamon. When the pot sings, kids yell, "Arroz con gandules," and neighbors knock with empty pots, widow from 5C, numbers runner, even the Irish super. Carmen feeds 20 from one pot, ladling sticky golden rice studded with peas and pork into any bowl that appears. One bite and the icy wind feels like El Yunk trade winds. By 1960 her kitchen is legendary. On Noche Buena the line wraps the block and cops just wave people through. 70 years later her grandson Luis, now a firefighter, cooks it in the firehouse every Christmas Eve. When he lifts the lid, steam carries every neighbor's name. The crew, Irish, Dominican, Korean, black, lines up, and for one quiet moment only forks clink, because Arroz con gandules didn't just feed Puerto Ricans, it taught a city the real American dream is a pot big enough for everyone who knocks. Soaps from Mexico. East Los Angeles, 1932. The Great Depression has turned dreams to dust, but on a sun-baked stoop on Whittier Boulevard, Rosa kneels before a comal heated by scavenged charcoal, hands dusted with masa harina smuggled from Guadalajara inside her father's hollowed cane. She pats thick, open-faced tortillas, pinching the edges into tiny walls, then fries them until they puff golden, the sizzle cutting through the dust bowl wind like a mariachi trumpet. Into each soap she spoons warm refried beans, lettuce, sharp onion, crumbled queso fresco tasting of forgotten mountains, and a thin drizzle of crema that runs like tears. The first batch is free for neighbors, Okies in Hoovervilles, Japanese farmers losing leases, black sharecroppers from the south. Rosa trades the rest for anything, half a lucky strike, mismatched socks, a story that makes her laugh through the pain. By noon the stoop is a marketplace of languages, Spanish, English, Nahuatl, Yiddish, and even truant officers stop by. Rosa calls it, the way we do it back home, but these soaps are lifelines, tiny fortresses saying you are not invisible. 85 years later, her great-grandson Javier, now a councilman, hosts a block party with Rosa's comal at the center. When the first soap comes off, still pinched the same defiant way, he lifts it like a flag. The crowd cheers, but Javier hears his bisabuela in the sizzle, no dejes que te quiten tu lugar, because those humble corn boats didn't just feed the hungry, they built walls of dignity no depression could tear down. Injera and Doro what from Ethiopia. Washington, D.C., 1984. In a cramped basement off U Street, Tesfaye pours teff flour, smuggled in Ethiopian Airlines gift, cans, into a bucket, whispering Amharic prayers while it ferments 3 days under a towel with the old imperial lion. When it bubbles like awash hot springs, he ladles it onto a plasma-funded mitad griddle, the injera spreads into a giant spongy pancake with 1,000 tiny eyes. Beside it simmers Doro what, chicken in Berber red as revolution blood, onions melted to silk, spiced butter glowing, eggs tucked like quiet survivors. The sour fiery smell leaks upstairs, soon every Ethiopian taxi driver in DC finds the door by nose alone, professors, pilots, mothers who carry children across Sudan. On Sundays Tesfaye feeds them free from one pot, tearing injera and scooping stew the Gondar way, turning the basement into a village square where no one explains why they fled. By 1991 his kitchen has fed half the East Coast diaspora. 40 years later his daughter Salam, now a diplomat, keeps the original mitad in her office. Every Ethiopian New Year she invites refugees and senators to eat from it. When the first injera tears and Berber hits the tongue, the room hushes, only fingers scooping, memories swallowing grief, because that sour bread and blazing chicken didn't just feed exiles, they rebuilt a nation one shared plate at a time. Pelmeni, Russia. Chicago, 1919. In a freezing attic above a Russian Orthodox church, Tatiana, former Cossack officer's wife, rolls paper-thin dough on a plank once a barracks door in Omsk. The flour arrived hidden in a coffin from Vladivostok. Customs saw only another white Russian corpse, not a family's last hope. She fills each circle with hand-chopped beef, pork, onion, pepper, meat still remembering Siberian winters where wolves howled outside the izba. Fingers fly, fold, pinch, seal, hundreds of pelmeni lie like white buttons on a greatcoat. When the first batch hits boiling water in a dented samovar kettle, they rise like souls, then swim in butter and sour cream thick as Ural snow. The smell rockets downstairs, suddenly the hallway fills with exiles, grand duchesses scrubbing floors, poets driving taxis, boys who crossed the Pacific in coal bunkers. They eat from the communal pot with ammunition crate spoons, burning tongues, because one juicy bite is a telegram from mothers left in Ekaterinburg, from Christmases when the samovar never cooled. Tatiana never charges, she trades pelmeni for news of sons, for want-ad translations, for silence about forged papers under the floorboard. By 1930 every Russian church basement serves her recipe, but only hers still leak a drop of broth when bitten, the way tears leak when someone finally says your real name. 90 years later her great-grandson Alexei, a heart surgeon, still cooks them every Russian Christmas Eve in the same chipped pot. When the first pelmen lands and butter pools like melted icons, the family falls quiet for one heartbeat, tasting not just meat and dough but an entire vanished empire marched across oceans on tiny frozen soldiers of memory. Sarma from Bosnia. St. Louis, 1994. In a modest ranch house in South County, Amira spreads grape leaves across a scarred table, fingers still shaking from the shell that destroyed her sister's Sarajevo home 2 months ago. The leaves arrived vacuum-sealed inside a hollow teddy bear her niece clutched on the airlift. Customs waved the child's toy through. She mixes lamb, rice, onion, and paprika smuggled in a film canister, rolling each leaf tight as a secret, layering them with smoked bacon and sauerkraut brine in a heavy pot. When the lid lifts, the smoky tangy steam carries minarets across the cul-de-sacs. Every Bosnian taxi driver, waiter, nurse in the city finds the door by scent alone. They arrive with empty Tupperware and eyes that haven't smiled in years, engineers, teachers, mothers who buried children under the same sky now holding American stars. Amira feeds them from the same pot while they whisper of weddings stopped by sniper fire. By 1996 her kitchen is the unofficial consulate for 1,000 displaced souls. 30 years later her daughter Layla, now a trauma surgeon, still uses the original pot every Orthodox Christmas, inviting Bosnians, Serbs, Croats, even the Croatian priest. When the first sarma breaks open and smoky filling spills, the room hushes, only forks scrape and a soft "Vala Bogu" escapes, because that humble roll didn't just feed refugees, it rebuilt bridges one bite at a time, the only treaty war could never break. Lumpia from the Philippines. Hawaii, 1932, Stockton, 1948. In a kerosene-lit sugar plantation shack, young Filipina lured rolls rice paper thin as whispers, fingers scarred from 12-hour cane shifts for 25 cents. The filling, pork, shrimp traded for laundry, vegetables from the Chinese farmer, garlic smuggled in her aunt's brassiere, is wrapped tight like Manong strike secrets. When the first lumpia hits boiling lard, it crackles like Ilocos New Year's firecrackers, turning golden crisp in seconds, then rests on Honolulu Star Bulletin pages. Plates are for the boss. Word races through the camps, every Filipino lines up with empty milk cans, trading hometown stories for one more roll. Lourdes never charges, she trades lumpia for English lessons, babysitting, silence about cousins hiding from deportation. By 1946 her recipe sails to California in the same battered suitcase that once held only dreams. 60 years later granddaughter Maricel, now a nurse in Stockton's Little Manila, still fries them every fiesta. When the first lumpia shatters crisp outside, juicy inside, she dips it in Lola's vinegar garlic chili saucewan. The whole block hushes for one heartbeat, tasting not just pork and shrimp but the impossible journey from Canefield Shack to California Street Fair, proof that when they tried to break your hands with labor, one woman, one wok, and love could turn oppression into the crunch that still rings across the Pacific every time a Filipino family says, "Kain tayo," and means, we made it. Moussaka from Greece. Chicago, 1958. In a narrow kitchen behind a Halsted Street diner smelling of coffee and pine sol, Eleni layers survival like a mosaic, ground beef instead of lamb, too expensive, paper-thin eggplant, bechamel thick with eggs traded for a hemmed dress. Cinnamon and allspice arrived in a bird seed tin hidden under her wedding dress on the 1948 boat from Piraeus. When the moussaka hits the old oven, the whole building leans in, Greek sailors, Mexican cooks, black dishwashers, even the Irish cop. Eleni cut squares with the same knife her mother used for partisans, topping each with extra bechamel because, in America we can be generous. One bite and the diner hushes, eggplant melts like Aegean summers, cinnamon tastes like Orthodox Easter, the cream is rich enough to make grown men remember Yaya's kitchen in villages the Nazis burned. She never writes the recipe, she teaches by letting new brides burn the first batch until the layers settle like memory. By 1970 every Greek diner serves her version, but only Eleni still bubbles like a volcano of the past. 65 years later grandson Nikos, Michelin-starred chef, uses that scarred knife on Greek Easter. When the bechamel breaks and cinnamon rises like incense, the restaurant falls quiet for one heartbeat, tasting the impossible distance between a starving widow on a refugee boat and a Chicago kitchen where generosity finally won, proof that when they take everything, one woman, one pan, and enough love can rebuild a homeland, one golden, defiant bite at a time. Feijoada from Brazil. Newark, New Jersey, 1982. In a third-floor walk-up on Ferry Street, Dona Nusa lights the stove like a favela chapel candle. The black beans arrived in a sack labeled coffee, the pork ear, tail, and ribs were bought with overtime from Manhattan offices. She soaks the beans, throws in every garbage cut plus one whole orange, the way her maid did when the whole hillside smelled like Saturday. When the feijoada bubbles, thick, inky, fragrant with garlic and bay leaf, the building wakes. New Brazilian arrivals, Cape Verdeans, Colombians, even the Italian landlord appear barefoot, drawn by the smoke. Dona Nusa serves it in coffee mugs and Tupperware lids with farofa, white rice, and orange slices tasting of Sunday Mass in Lapa. One spoonful and the room hushes, beans creamy, meat falling apart meat, orange cutting the richness like samba. Nobody mentions the dictatorship or missing cousins, they just pass hot sauce and smile. She never charges, trades feijoada for radiator fixes, English help, news of her son in Sao Paulo. By 1990 her kitchen is the Ironbound's unofficial embassy. 40 years later daughter Lucia, now councilwoman, still cooks it every Saturday in the same pot. When she lifts the lid, the block falls quiet for one heartbeat, tasting the impossible distance between a hillside shack and a Newark table where Saturday finally won, proof that when they try to starve your joy, one woman, one pot, and enough love can turn the cheapest cuts into Brazil's richest weekend. Bunny Chow, South Africa. Paterson, New Jersey, 1987. Behind a Route 46 gas station, Rajesh hollows out a quarter loaf of subsidized bread and fills it with fiery mutton curry whose cloves, cinnamon, and Durban masala turn winter into natal summer. Back home, Indian cane workers weren't allowed plates under apartheid, so they used yesterday's loaf as a bowl. Rajesh carried that trick in his head when he fled the townships with one suitcase. He cooks after midnight with cheap lamb neck and mother-in-law exterminator, chilies mailed in a cake sprinkles tin. Night shift taxi drivers, Zulu, Gujarati, black, white, arrive drawn by the smell. No forks, eat with hands, tearing gravy-soaked crust like a love letter in spice. One bite and they forget iced windshields and expiring visas. They pay in pocket change and leave with curry-stained fingers. By 1990 a hand-painted bunny sign hangs outside and the Friday line wraps the block, even in blizzards. 35 years later, Rajesh's daughter Priya, now a trauma surgeon, still keeps the dented pot. The night Mandela walked free she fed the whole block. When the first gravy-soaked bread touches a tongue, the street hushes, tasting not just lamb and chili but the impossible leap from a 1940 sugar plantation to a New Jersey suburb, proof that when they try to starve your dignity, half a loaf and enough fire can turn oppression into the sweetest rebellion ever eaten barehanded. Biryani from Pakistan. Queens, 2002. In a cramped walk-up above a 24-hour pharmacy, taxi driver Tariq fires up a dented degi on a single hot plate while the city still smells of September smoke. He's driven 16 hours straight, hands shaking, but tonight he must cook. In his backpack, a pinch of saffron his mother pressed into his palm at Karachi airport, saying, "This is our flag now, beta." Into the pot goes basmati that cost half a day's tips, goat meat from the Bangladeshi butcher, and that saffron turning everything sunrise gold. He layers rice, meat, fried onions, mint, rose water, seals the lid with dough like his grandmother sealed secrets during partition. The smell, cardamom, clove, star anise, explodes down the hallway. Suddenly the building lives, Pakistani drivers off night shift, Afghan refugees, Indian students, even the Guatemalan super. They eat from the pot with plastic spoons, sitting on stairs, passing row afsa like communion. One bite and exhaustion melts, rice separate yet married, meat falling like forgiveness, saffron blooming like a mother's hug 8,000 miles away. Tariq never charges, he trades biryani for sleep, for news of his sister in Lahore, for silence. By 2005 every yellow cab knows the address. 25 years later his son Bilal, born the week the towers fell, still cooks at every 9/11. When the lid lifts and steam rises like a phoenix over Queens, the block hushes, tasting not just goat and rice but the impossible distance between terror and tomorrow, proof that when they try to erase where you came from, one pot, one strand of saffron, and enough love can turn grief into the most fragrant remembrance ever eaten with bare hands and full hearts. Tacos al Pastor, Lebanon to Mexico. Los Angeles, 1966. On a dusty corner of East Olympic Boulevard, Armando fires up a vertical spit welded from an old car transmission, stacking pork shoulder marinated in achiote and pineapple the color of Beirut sunset. His Lebanese father, who arrived in Veracruz in the 1920s with only a shawarma recipe, taught him to shave the meat sizzling into tortillas, but Armando added guajillo chilies and pineapple juice because in Mexico even memories get baptized in chili. The trompo spins like a prayer wheel, fat hissing, smoke carrying cumin, allspice, citrus, two worlds colliding. By midnight the line stretches past pupuserias and kosher bakeries, factory workers, mariachis, Chicano teens, even an LAPD officer waiting like everyone else. Armando never writes the recipe, he teaches by letting his son stand on crates and shave the first crispy edges at 3 a.m., whispering, "Esto es nuestro libano, pero con salsa." One bite and borders vanish, pork smoky sweet, pineapple bursting like sunshine, tortilla warm as an unknown ant's hug. By 1975 every corner from Boyle Heights to Tijuana has a spinning trompo, the smell becoming the anthem of Mexican nights. 50 years later granddaughter Sofia, now food truck queen, still uses Abuelo's original spit. Every Cinco de Mayo she parks on the same corner, the trompo glowing like a lighthouse. When the first taco slides off the blade, the block hushes for one heartbeat, tasting the impossible love story of a Lebanese shepherd and a Mexican revolution that invented the taco, teaching two nations to dance on one tongue, proof the most beautiful fusions are born when a homesick heart feeds a new home with everything it carried from the old. The first pizza, Italy. New York City, 1905. On a coal-blackened corner of Spring Street, Gennaro Lombardi fires up a brick oven built from stones carried in the ship's ballast. The dough is simple: flour, water, salt, and yeast his mother tucked into a handkerchief the night he left. He stretches it thin, spreads hand-crushed San Marzano tomatoes, cans don't exist yet, drizzles olive oil smuggled by his cousin, scatters mozzarella hidden in a wicker basket and adds basil leaves that stayed green for 3 weeks at sea. When the first pie slides into the screaming heat, the scent, charred crust, sweet tomato, milky cheese, explodes out the door and stops every factory worker, newsboy, and policeman dead in their tracks. They line up with nickels and sweaty fists, Irish longshoremen, Jewish tailors, black porters, because for 5 cents Gennaro sells a slice of the old country so perfect it makes grown men cry. He never writes the recipe, he teaches by letting his children watch the oven glow like Vesuvius, whispering, "This is how we feed the future." By 1920 every corner in Little Italy has a pizzeria, and by 1950 every soldier home from Europe demands that pie from Naples, but only Lombardi's still tastes like the first time: blistered crust, bright sauce, cheese pulling in long strings. 120 years later, his great-great-granddaughter Lucia, now a Broadway actress, still orders one plain pie every opening night. When the first bite hits her tongue, char, salt, memory, the ghosts of a million immigrants line up behind her, nickels in hand, because that single Neapolitan circle didn't just feed hungry mouths, it mapped American joy, one perfect, life-changing slice at a time. These 25 dishes aren't just food. They're passports stamped with spice. Love letters written in dough and sauce. Quiet revolutions our ancestors fought with nothing but a pot and a memory. Every time you eat tamales, biryani, or a slice of pizza, you're tasting someone's homesickness turned into hope. This is how America was really built. One secret recipe at a time. One shared bite at a time. Thanks for eating with us tonight. Share it with someone who has their own grandma's secret. The stove's still warm. See you at the next table. The America we cherish. Where every flavor has a passport. And there's always room for one more at the table.